The story didn't begin with a text, or a whisper, or some shady late-night phone call. It began with a package. A package addressed to me, but mailed from my own house. I found it on the porch after work. Just a small cardboard box, taped sloppy, like someone packed it in a hurry. No return label. No message. Just my name written in handwriting that looked too shaky to be hers, but too familiar not to be. Inside, a single item. A hotel room keycard. Room 214. No hotel name. Just the number embossed on black plastic. And beneath it, folded twice as if someone didn't want to touch it longer than necessary, was a note. If you want the truth, go alone. Don't tell her. I swear my heart fell straight through my ribs. I could hear it in my ankles. Because there's a special kind of terror reserved for when a stranger knows more about your marriage than you do. I should have ignored it. Normal people ignore things like that. But I'm Camden, professional overthinker, Olympic-level worrier, and a man who cries when the Wi-Fi goes out. So of course I grabbed my jacket, because what else was I supposed to do? Pretend my life wasn't suddenly turning into some suspense movie where I'm the confused extra? I drove to every hotel in town, walking into lobbies like a lost puppy asking, "Hi, do you happen to have a room 214? Most were full, or didn't use that numbering system, or looked at me like I was trying to sell candles. But the fifth hotel, the old brick one near the river, when I asked, the clerk didn't even blink. He just pointed upstairs. Room 214 felt wrong before I even reached it. The hallway smelled like cheap disinfectant and someone's leftover takeout. The air was heavy, like it knew something I didn't. The keycard worked instantly. The lights were off. The curtains open. And on the bed, God, on the bed was my wife's scarf. The yellow one she only wore on days she wanted to feel pretty. The one I bought her for our anniversary. It was spread out neatly across the blanket like someone was presenting it to me. And next to that scarf, a printed photograph. Not a scandalous one. Not explicit. Nothing violating YouTube rules. But somehow worse. It showed the back of my wife, sitting on the edge of the same bed, talking to a man whose face wasn't visible. Just his arm resting casually against her lower back. Fingers too comfortable, too practiced, too confident. The timestamp? 3 nights ago. A night she told me she was venting with coworkers. A night I made her soup because she said she felt sick. I didn't shout. I didn't break anything. I didn't even cry. I just left the room, walked calmly down the hallway, got in my car, and drove away from my entire life. No goodbye, no explanation, no forwarding address. I disappeared. But here's the part that still makes my hands shake as I write this. I wasn't the one being watched that night. She was. And the person who took that photo? They didn't want to hurt me. They wanted me gone. I just didn't know why. Not yet. And when Darla finally tracked me down months later, she wasn't alone. I hadn't spoken a single word to anyone in 17 days. Not a word to a friend. Not a call to my mom. Not even a text to the guy who sold me the junky fishing cabin I now called home. Just silence. And wind. And waves. And a lot of instant noodles. I was living like a ghost, hiding out on the edge of some forgotten coastal town, eating from paper bowls and staring at water that never stopped moving. It was perfect. Quiet. Anonymous. Exactly what I thought I wanted. Until that morning. At first, I thought I was dreaming. I heard footsteps crunching outside. Not animals. Not wind. Boots. Real, slow, deliberate footsteps. Then came the knock. Not hard. Just enough. One knock, then silence. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. Maybe if I stayed perfectly still, they'd leave. People don't knock on random fishermen's doors in the middle of the week. Not unless they know who lives there. And nobody knew I lived there. Then I heard the second sound. Not a knock this time, but fingers brushing across the cabin window. I didn't imagine it. The window squeaked, like someone was dragging their hand across the outside glass. I didn't have a weapon. I barely had furniture. So I grabbed the nearest thing, an old chair leg I'd found washed up on the shore, and crept toward the front door. My heart was slamming against my ribs like it wanted out. I waited. Nothing. Silence again. I took one step closer. Then another. And then I saw it. Pressed to the glass was a photo. A printed, glossy 4x6 photo stuck to the window with clear tape. I didn't open the door. I didn't even try to see who left it. I just stared at the image like my whole body had locked up. It was a photo of me. Me, sitting inside the cabin 2 nights ago, reading a book by lantern light. Taken from the woods behind the house. Through the window. At night. Someone had been watching me. They hadn't just found me. They'd been tracking me. I ripped the photo off the glass and scanned the woods, but there was nothing. Just trees, fog, and the faint sound of waves. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't even lie down. I sat in a chair facing the door, clutching a cold coffee cup like it was going to protect me. The next day, I made the mistake of turning on my phone for the first time in weeks. Not to call anyone. I just wanted to check the news, remind myself the world was still out there. I had 173 missed calls. Only 3 names. One from my job, one from my brother, and the rest were all Darla. Voicemails, texts, pictures, videos, messages that started off polite. Camden, please just call me. I'm scared, and quickly turned desperate. I know someone's following me too. Please, please, don't shut me out. I should have ignored her. I wanted to ignore her. But then came one text that broke me. Whoever sent you the photo, they sent one to me too. Of you. Sleeping. I felt like the floor cracked beneath me. She wasn't supposed to know where I was. No one was. But if she'd gotten that photo, if someone was watching both of us, that meant this wasn't just about the affair anymore. This wasn't even about her. This was something else entirely. And the moment I let her back in, even just through a call, everything I thought I escaped from was about to hit harder than I could have imagined. I lasted 6 hours before I called her. 6 hours of pacing the tiny cabin until I wore a path in the floorboards. 6 hours of rehearsing what I'd say, or if I'd scream, or if I'd just hang up the second I heard her voice. But when I finally hit that green button and lifted the phone to my ear, all of that vanished. Because she wasn't crying. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't even angry. She was terrified. Cam. Her voice cracked like she hadn't spoken in days. You're alive. Thank God. Are you safe? Are you alone? I didn't say anything. I couldn't. My throat felt like it was stuffed with sand. They sent me a picture of you, she whispered. It was in our mailbox. Just sitting there. No return address, no note. Just you. Sleeping. Camden, someone is playing with us. Please. I need to see you. You don't need anything from me. I finally managed to choke out. You had your escape. Remember? Artist retreat? Cabin creativity? While I was back home brushing your stupid cat and folding your laundry. Her voice cracked, but I pushed through. I wanted to hurt her. I needed to hurt her. I know what you did, Darla, I snapped. I saw the sketchbook. I saw the photos. And I saw the look on your face in that hotel picture. You weren't discovering yourself. You were discovering him. Silence. But then, soft and shaking. Camden. I never went to that hotel. And just like that, every nerve in my body went cold. What? I didn't go there, she repeated slower. I don't even know where that is. The scarf? It disappeared before the trip. I thought I lost it in the laundry. I didn't leave it on a bed. I didn't sit with anyone. I didn't cheat on you, Camden. I swear to God. I wanted to laugh. I wanted to scream. But what came out of me instead was a confused, bitter gasp of disbelief. Then who the hell took the photo? Why were you leaning into some guy like he owned you? I wasn't. I don't know who that is. Camden, she paused, then said it. I think someone's trying to destroy us. I think they already are. It should have been a lie. It had to be a lie. But then I remembered the photo on the window. The one taken of me. The one sent to her. The one that required someone being close enough to watch me through glass. And then she said something that nearly made me drop the phone. Cam, I didn't tell anyone you were gone. Not even my sister. I told everyone you were visiting your cousin in Reno. But somehow, someone still found you. And they want me to find you too. The line went quiet. Then a soft breath. I got another package this morning, she whispered. What was in it? Her voice cracked as she answered. Your wedding ring. Burned. I stared down at my hand instinctively. My ring was still on. Cold. Unchanged. But if someone had another one, or had taken a photo of mine and created a replica, or had access to. Camden, she said. Please. I know I hurt you. I know I pulled away. But I didn't cheat. I swear. I need to see you. Someone's trying to make you believe I'm the villain. But I'm scared. I'm scared they want us both gone. I wanted to hang up. I wanted to erase her voice from my ears and go back to pretending I never existed. But then she said one last thing. They knew about the sketchbook, Camden. They knew what you'd find. They planted it. And suddenly, the one thing I was absolutely certain about, her betrayal, didn't feel so solid anymore. Which meant either she was lying on a level I couldn't comprehend, or something darker than infidelity was unraveling right in front of me. I didn't sleep again. Not that I had been sleeping well since I disappeared, but after that call, the walls felt thinner. Every creak in the cabin sounded intentional. Every gust of wind felt like a breath from someone standing too close. I started checking the locks every 20 minutes, even though I knew no one sane was coming all the way out here. But then again, this wasn't sane, was it? By sunrise, I'd convinced myself she was still lying. Maybe not about everything, but enough. That's how it always goes, right? You catch a lie, and suddenly the truth wears too many masks. The thing is, I wanted to believe her. I hated that I did. But some part of me, the weak, hopeful part that still remembered dancing in our hallway at 2 a.m., with no music, was desperate for her not to be the monster I'd painted in my head. So I did the thing I promised myself I wouldn't do. I looked through her things. I still had her old sketch bag. She'd thrown it in my trunk by mistake before her trip. It sat untouched next to a half-empty bottle of windshield fluid and the blanket we used when we stargazed exactly once, back when she still laughed at my dumb planet facts. I pulled the bag inside, unzipped it, and dumped everything on the floor. Brushes, graphite, crumpled receipt from a gas station in Ashland, one bootleg candle, a dented thermos, and her mirror, that handheld mirror. She used to take it everywhere. She said it made her feel grounded, like she could always see herself clearly, no matter where she was. Some metaphor I never understood. I picked it up out of habit. I don't know why. I wasn't looking for anything. I just missed her face, maybe, even if it was through glass. But when I turned it over, the back panel wobbled. I pressed it gently. It clicked. I had never known it opened. Inside was a folded piece of paper. Yellowed. Thin. Folded neatly, like it had been placed there with purpose. I unfolded it, hands shaking before I even read the words. And when I did, I nearly dropped it. We both know this won't end well. But make sure he finds this when he runs. He needs to believe it was me. No name. No context. No date. Just those 20 words. Handwritten in her lettering. Or at least it looked like hers. But something was off. The loops were too sharp. The spacing was weird. And the way the word believe was underlined twice. It wasn't how she wrote. I stared at it for a long time. Too long. My head was spinning with questions I had no way to answer. Did she write this? Was it planted? Who was it meant for? Was I the one meant to find it? Or was it left for someone else? Someone watching me? The phone buzzed again. Another message from her. A photo this time. Blurry. A dark hallway. A car in the distance. Captioned. They're outside my sister's house. I don't know who they are. I stared at the screen, waiting for my heartbeat to slow. It didn't. Because then came a second photo, sent seconds later. This one was of me. Again. Standing inside my cabin. Taken through the window. Only this time, it was from the other side of the house. Whoever was watching me. They had moved. I left the cabin before the sun went down. Not because I had anywhere to go, but because I couldn't stay there a second longer knowing someone had walked the perimeter while I slept. Someone had circled me like prey. I didn't pack much. Just the note from behind the mirror, my phone, the sketch bag, and a rusted camping knife I found in the drawer. I locked the door like it mattered and walked straight into the fog. I stayed in a cheap motel about 40 minutes inland. Somewhere anonymous. Somewhere with cameras in the lobby and a front desk clerk who didn't look up from his crossword. I paid in cash. I didn't give a name. I didn't sleep either. Around 3 a.m., I remembered something, her old laptop. The one she stopped using years ago when she got her new touchscreen tablet. I had thrown it in my trunk when I left, thinking I'd wipe it and sell it for extra gas money. But I never did. It had been sitting there, forgotten, under a blanket that smelled like our old house. I brought it into the motel room, powered it on, and to my surprise, it still worked. The background image hadn't changed. It was still the photo I took of her standing in the lake that one summer, sunlight spilling through her curls, her eyes squinting from the reflection. I should have deleted it. I didn't. I wasn't looking for anything specific, just trying to find something, anything, to prove she was lying. A folder buried on the desktop caught my eye. It was named Invoice Drafts, which, of course, was code for don't open unless you want a headache. Naturally, I clicked it. There were several Word files, but one stood out. It was titled Endgame. TXT. My pulse actually skipped. I opened it, expecting a grocery list or maybe some unfinished journal entry. Instead, I found a timeline. Dates. Times. Descriptions. July 14th. Call Camden from studio at 3:20. Let him hear the sirens. Tell him they're just outside. July 15th. Leave scarf on hotel bed. Text I miss you. Delete immediately. July 17th. Deliver envelope to mailbox. July 19th. Stop responding. Let it sink in. He needs to be the one to break. It went on. Pages of it. Structured. Precise. Calculated. Like someone had been planning my mental collapse with military precision. But it wasn't signed. There was no indication she wrote it. No voice. No tone. No Cam, or babe, or any of her usual phrases. It read like a directive. A cold, surgical instruction set. The language was clipped, dry, objective, and buried at the very bottom, in bold. If he disappears, do not interfere. He must feel alone. That's where the cracks show. I slammed the laptop shut. I wanted to throw it against the wall. I wanted to scream until my throat bled. Because either my wife had written this, or someone who knew us intimately had crafted an entire mental demolition project, down to the last emotional button they could press. But then a new horror crept into my thoughts like black ink spreading in water. What if she didn't write it? But she knew about it? The phone buzzed. Another message. Another number I didn't recognize. This one wasn't a photo. It was a video. And when I opened it, I saw myself again. This time asleep in the motel bed I was still lying in. The message under it was simple. Stop running. You were never the target. I left the motel that night. I didn't even check out. I just walked out the side exit, shaking, sweating, trying not to vomit in the bushes. That video, it broke something in me. Seeing myself sleeping, filmed by someone who had to be in the room, or close enough to see inside, made me feel like my skin didn't fit anymore. I'd covered every window with towels. I had moved towns, changed routines, hidden like a criminal. But somehow they still saw me, whoever they were. And that message, you were never the target, kept playing in my head like a skipping record. If not me, then who? Darla? Was this some kind of payback for her? For what she did, or what I thought she did? Or was I just collateral? Something to break, so someone else could be reached? I drove until the sky turned gray, until the road narrowed into cracked two-lane pavement, until I stopped caring where I ended up. Eventually, I pulled into a gas station that looked like it hadn't been remodeled since the 80s. I sat in the car for half an hour before going inside, pretending to browse, just needing to see people who didn't know me. The clerk was a teenager wearing earbuds. She didn't look up once. Then the radio behind the counter crackled. I remember this in slow motion. There was music at first, some old twangy country song playing low, and then static. A pop of silence. Then a voice. Faint, garbled. But I knew it. It was Darla. I couldn't make out the words, but the tone, that fractured, breathy tone she used when she was crying and trying not to be heard. It was her. I stepped closer. The teenager didn't react, like she hadn't heard anything at all. But I did. Clear as day, beneath the distortion. Camden, you have to stop running. Please. It's not me. It's never been me. Then static again. Then nothing. I asked the girl behind the counter if she'd heard that. She didn't even take her earbuds out. You okay, man? She asked, clearly not caring about the answer. I didn't reply. I stumbled outside, staring at the radio tower on the hill behind the building like it had teeth. Was it a message? A warning? Or was I cracking for real now? I had to do something. I couldn't keep unraveling alone. So I made the worst decision possible. I called her again. She answered before the first ring even finished. Her voice was quiet, like she was hiding under a blanket or in a closet. I thought you were dead, she whispered. I didn't say anything. I just breathed hard. They followed me from your brother's house. I don't know how they knew I'd be there. I changed cars. I wore sunglasses. I parked 5 blocks away. She was shaking. I could hear it in the way her words stumbled. They left something on my windshield this morning. A photo of you, sitting on a bench, feeding birds. Like you were trying to be normal. But it wasn't today. It was 2 days ago. In a place I've never seen. They're everywhere, I said, the words finally spilling out. They know where we are before we do. I don't think they care about us being scared, she said. I think they want us like this. Alone. Dismantled. Turned against each other. You said you didn't cheat, I said, softer now. I didn't, she said again. But that doesn't matter anymore, does it? Because now they've made sure that even if I was innocent, you'd never be sure. We both sat in silence for a long time. Then she said something that made every hair on my body lift. They're done watching, Camden. I think they're moving to the next phase. What phase? I asked, even though I didn't want to know. There was a pause. And then she whispered, "They're going to bring us back together. On purpose." I told myself I wouldn't meet her. I told myself I'd keep hiding until this whole thing burned itself out. But then the next envelope came, and after that, I stopped pretending I had a choice. I found it slid under my motel room door sometime after midnight. No knock. No footsteps. No sound. Just an envelope on the floor, same kind as before. Thin, anonymous, beige. My stomach turned when I saw it. I didn't even want to touch it. But I did. Inside were 3 photographs. Not grainy. Not distant. These were high resolution. Crisp. Intentional. The first was me, sitting on a patio I didn't recognize, reading a newspaper I never bought. My shirt looked familiar, but it wasn't mine anymore. It was one I'd donated to Goodwill before I left. In the corner of the photo, I could see a date, stamped digitally. 2 weeks ago. I never sat on that patio. I had never even been to that town. The second photo was worse. It was Darla, but not the Darla I remembered. Her eyes were vacant, her face pale, her shoulders hunched like she'd aged 10 years in a week. She was standing at a gas station pump, looking directly into the camera. Not at it. Into it. Like she knew it was there. Like she was waiting for it. And the third photo. The third one made me fall to my knees. It was the 2 of us. Together. Laughing. Sitting on the same couch from our old house. Her feet on my lap, my hand in her hair. A bowl of popcorn between us. Same blanket. Same chipped coffee table. Everything exactly as it had been months before I vanished. Only one problem. That night never happened. Not even close. I studied the angle. The lighting. Even the way my own face looked. It was perfect. Too perfect. My head tilted at just the right moment. Eyes half closed mid-laugh. Her smile wasn't one of those stiff, forced ones. It was real. Natural. Except it wasn't. None of it was. It was staged. Or generated. Or God knows what. And that's when the last card fell. They weren't just tracking us. They weren't just watching. They were rewriting us. Someone, some group, was actively reshaping our narrative. Feeding both of us doctored memories, moments that never existed, and contradictions that made us question the ground beneath our feet. This wasn't about infidelity anymore. It never was. It was about control, isolation, confusion, the total demolition of trust, so that neither of us would ever know what was real again. So I called her. This time, I didn't wait for her to whisper. I spoke first. "They're manufacturing our memories." "I know," she said. "I figured it out yesterday." "How?" "They sent me a voicemail of you apologizing," she said. "Your voice. Your words. You said you knew about Rafe. That you forgave me. You even thanked me for being honest. But I never. I know you didn't. But I believed it for a few minutes. And then I remembered. You never call me honey. Not once in 8 years." We sat there, thousands of miles apart, bound together by madness. "What do they want?" I finally asked. There was a long silence. Then she whispered, "I think they want us back together." "That's insane." "No," she said quietly. "What's insane is, I think it's working." And the scariest part? So did I. We met at a place neither of us had ever been before. No history. No shadows. No watchers, at least not that we could tell. It was an old rental cottage on Rainridge Hill, 2 hours from the nearest town, perched above a frozen lake that hadn't seen tourists in years. She found it. Paid in cash. I arrived at dusk. She was already there, sitting on the porch wrapped in a coat I hadn't seen since our engagement photos. She didn't speak at first. Neither did I. We just looked at each other like strangers trying to remember a shared dream. Then, finally, I sat down beside her. And she asked one question. "What do you still believe is real?" I thought about that for a long time. About the fake photographs, the rewritten messages, the distorted recordings, the months of manipulation designed to turn me against her, against myself. But somewhere beneath the static, I remembered one night. A dumb night. A small one. She was sick, full of cold medicine, in the middle of painting the spare room. I brought her soup. She laughed at me because I accidentally warmed the bowl with the foil still on top. It sparked in the microwave. She said I was trying to poison her. I told her I wasn't smart enough to pull off murder. She kissed me with soup breath and told me not to leave her even when she was gross. I told her that was when I loved her most. That night wasn't in any photo. It wasn't recorded. It wasn't documented in a folder on a hard drive. But I remembered it. "I believe that," I said. "And if I can believe that, maybe that's enough." She looked at me, eyes rimmed red, and for the first time since this all began, she didn't look like a mystery. She looked like the woman I married. Older, worn, but still her. Still Darla. We didn't kiss. Not yet. We just sat on the porch as the sky turned lavender and the lake below turned to glass. For the first time in what felt like years, nobody watched us. No one texted. No one tapped on windows or left photos in the dark. It was just us. We stayed in that cottage for 2 days. Long enough to sleep without fear. To talk without code. To ask each other everything we'd been afraid to hear. The truth was jagged, but it was real. She had pulled away. She had lied about small things. But not the big one. She hadn't cheated. And I hadn't lost my mind. We were both victims, carefully dismantled by someone who wanted us fractured. Maybe for research. Maybe for revenge. We'd probably never know. But we did know this. They failed. Because in the end, the chaos didn't break us. It showed us the truth. Love isn't proven in perfect pictures or ideal stories. Love is what survives when everything else is twisted. Love is what remains when trust has to be rebuilt from dust. We left Rainridge Hill together. Quietly. Carefully. With nothing but a beat-up truck, an old wedding ring, and a promise to remember the one thing they never could fabricate. The way we fought our way back.